Hi, my name is Dr. Christina Rahm, and I'm the founder of Under the Red Chandelier. I've worked for the pharmaceutical and nutraceutical industries. I've worked for governments and corporations, but I still have this burning passion when it comes to music and art and fashion and design. And I realized I have a lot to share. I want to share the travel, the fashion, the art, the music I grew up with, as well as what I've experienced. As I traveled, I picked up different colors and different designs and different things that I brought back. In today's world, we have all this conflict. It doesn't matter what their religion is. It doesn't matter what their political view is. For all the creators out there, for all the scientists, from all the artists, for all of you guys, come join us on this series. We're here to connect. We're here to learn. Hi everyone, welcome to Under the Red Chandelier. We have a special guest today that I feel like is and should be on both podcasts. So I'd like to welcome, I almost started crying and I don't know why, one of my very dear friends, one of my best friends, Lisa Kreitz, who is also a cancer survivor. She's also the inventor of the shower shirt, so she does fashion in her own way, and we'll talk about that. We grew up together. We went to college together. She's my big sister in sorority. She's also over media for the Root brands and helping all over the world to really help women and their causes. And so I want to welcome you, Lisa. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you for having me, Christina.
So I know you from growing up and then from you actually mentoring me in many ways. In high school, Lisa's a little bit older. I just have to put that out there.
A little bit.
For mentoring me to being a big sister in sorority, but really being a friend for me. But you've had a pretty difficult life. And for me, just sitting on the sidelines watching how strong you've been and knowing how difficult it is, I know you're an example to so many people. And I've watched you speak in front of major groups, including the women's group in Florida, and I know you speak for the American Cancer Society, but I really want to hear about your story and the journey that took you from being a news anchor and being on television to developing the shower shirt and to where you are now. I'd love to hear how that transition took place and why it took place.
A couple things. First of all, I think we've always mentored each other. You know, going way back to being friends in third grade is when we met. Essentially, our families were friends, and growing up junior high school. So I think we've always had a mentorship with each other, and I've always valued your friendship, of course. Essentially, in a nutshell, I worked in journalism for many, many years. I was in the newsroom for almost 20 years. And I loved health and medical reporting. I didn't want to study the clinical side like you did. I wanted to report on it. And I did that for many, many years and then evolved. And when I was 41 years old, I was diagnosed with breast cancer. I had no family history of breast cancer. And so it was quite a shock, and in all honesty, I felt like I was healthier than any of my friends. Yeah. I didn't smoke, didn't drink too much, always exercised, but it happened. It was stage 1, which I was very, very lucky. However, I chose to have a bilateral mastectomy. When the pathology report came back, they told me that there was breast cancer in the second breast, and it was a very aggressive form. So I felt intuitive in making that powerful decision to go ahead and have a bilateral mastectomy versus a lumpectomy with chemo and radiation. So I got through that easily, but then ended up with a lot of complications. In that first year, I had 2 hospital-acquired infections, 4 months of hyperbaric oxygen treatments, and 7 surgeries. Needless to say, you know, our surgeons, clinicians, they're there to save our lives. They're there to take care of the disease, do what they have to do. They're not really into the pragmatic aspect of telling you what you're going to need to expect after surgery. And one of the biggest things for me was I had post-surgical drains that came out of my armpits down to my knees, and I couldn't shower. Quickly, I went back to my many resources as a health and medical reporter. Every surgeon I had ever talked to, for the most part, every breast cancer patient I had interviewed and said, "How did you shower?" "Oh, get in the shower with a trash bag. There's no products." And I said, women have been going through breast cancer and mastectomy surgery in this country for 80 years. Why isn't there a product? So basically, pen to paper, and my brother, who's an engineer, we created something called the shower shirt for breast cancer patients. And again, the inception was breast cancer because I was a breast cancer patient. However, at this point in time, the shower shirt is used for chest surgery patients. So it's used for breast cancer, hemodialysis patients, rotator cuff patients, pacemaker patients, life vest. So I say now it's almost a huge Band-Aid to protect patients until they no longer need it. So it's fabulously positive, but also sad, going through such difficult times in your life. If you take the bull by the horns and you say, number one, I'm going to beat cancer. Number two, I am going to learn everything I can from this, make it my cathartic project to move forward and help other people. In the end, it's amazing when you look back. Earlier, I was listening to you talk to other cancer patients, and I was like, I've spent 10 years of my life trying to help patients, and I have loved every minute of it. We hate every minute of it, but we love it. And my goal has always been, I never wanted breast cancer to define my life. I wanted it to only refine my life to help other people.
And you did that. I remember when my mother actually told me what you were doing, and I thought, wait a minute. So another story, off story. Lisa was over at one point. You were running cruise, you were the hostess for cruise ships, and I almost went to work with you.
Exactly.
And my mother was like, no, you are going to go back to school, because if you go with Lisa, you'll never come home.
Is this true?
True story.
Yes.
She goes, you and Lisa will stay gone forever.
Right.
And you were having so much fun. I remember hearing your stories of traveling all over on these cruise ships, and just thinking, oh my gosh, Lisa's making everyone so happy, because you've always made people happy and you're the life of the party. And then when that happened with breast cancer and you had other tragedies in your life, and I remember my mother telling me, and then me looking it up and thinking, oh, that's Lisa. Typical Lisa. She's making something better that happened that was really hard. And I admire that so much about you, because at that moment when things happen, we all feel sorry for ourselves. Sure. There's days, we've talked about it, where I haven't wanted to get out of bed. You haven't wanted to get out of bed. The depression, the anxiety, if you've never experienced it, when you go through a traumatic loss, like having cancer, losing someone you love, or especially going through everything at once, which I think both you and I had experiences of loss around cancer. And different traumatic things that happened. And I'm just being honest, yours was worse, because it was your mother, during that time. Right. But you somehow made it to get out of bed and to do all this.
I had going back even before cancer, I had gotten married in 2001, and then my mother died in a car accident 2 weeks after I got married. And then sadly, the marriage could not handle the stress and trauma of my mother's death. And then my ex-husband's mother passed away too. A few years later, then I was diagnosed with breast cancer. And it just seemed like one thing after the other. And the bottom line was this: there was always an underlying melancholy of, I lost my mother. I lost my family to a certain extent, because the mother sometimes holds the glue together. And then I had breast cancer, and I thought, we can only control what we can control. And I couldn't control my health, but I was empowered by my doctors to make the best choices. I could control creating a product for future breast cancer patients. I could keep those breast cancer patients out of the shower in trash bags. I could control that. We can't control death. It is so hard. We get up every morning and we fight. And there's still a melancholy on occasion. But I have to say, sometimes, it goes back to the simple: the glass is half full or the glass is half empty. And we can get up every morning and say, the glass is empty today. You know what? By the end of the day, you can find the fluid in that glass. And you can say, no, I am blessed. I am blessed. I have friends. I have food to eat. I'm helping breast cancer patients. I'm doing a good job. I'm philanthropic. And there's always things to feel blessed for. And so many, again, in listening to you interview other people, all of the amazing things I've experienced because I have breast cancer. It was a blessing in disguise. I've met people internationally. I've spoken internationally. I've met so many patients that have used the product, and I'm so thrilled because it's validation of helping people, and there's nothing better than helping people.
Well, it's validation, but you've also saved people's lives, because whether people realize it or not, when the bacteria comes in, if the water gets on the wound and goes into the body, secondary infections happen and patients die. And when your immune system's down from things like cancer, it's traumatic. And I remember, again, as a scientist, looking into what you were doing, thinking that is, I'm just being honest, admiring it, and thinking this is so amazing that Lisa's done this. And then you have the whole philanthropic thing along with it, because, I really do believe we were raised in a small town. We were brought up by parents that taught us to give back. You and I recently had a discussion of Christina Philanthropy, and I don't even think about it, actually, because it's a part of my life and yours.
Absolutely.
It's what we do. If someone said to you, Lisa, will you do this to help? If you can, we've talked about it, sometimes we can't, we're too busy, but you do your very best. So it's interesting how at a time when you needed help, you helped others. And I just think that's such a, for me, I look up to that so much.
Oh, thank you. You are a scientist, you are clinical, and it's interesting. I used to laugh as a health and medical television reporter in the Orlando TV market. I would say, I play that I'm clinical on TV. I wasn't. I asked the questions to the clinicians. And when I was going through the breast cancer and going through the treatments, the doctor was like, you can't shower. Well, why? I had no idea there was bacteria pathogens in the tap water, and it can increase the chances of a waterborne illness. Yeah. And to me, it was just a common sense. And it was interesting. I was in Portugal a few years ago, and we had won an award from the University of Portugal School of Business and Economics. And one of the medical advisors, he was from MIT, and he said, why did Lisa Kreitz invent this product and Big Pharma didn't? Or Big Medical didn't? Because the shower shirt is a Class 1 medical device, whatever that means.
Listen, the audience may not know this. I know this. It's very hard for a inventor, scientist, whatever. You don't have to go to school to have a formal education to be a scientist. I just want to lay that out. Clayton, for example, I can name a number of people, John Hayden, that are extremely scientific, that probably know as much or more than doctors or more than scientists, but they just don't have that formal education. But I remember thinking, oh my gosh, how much work was that for Lisa to get that approved by the insurance companies, by Medicaid and Medicare, being honored by the Prince in different countries. I mean, you literally did something. Why didn't other people do that before? Because that's an interesting question, because I remember, so backtrack to even when I had Lyme disease, and then I had meningitis, and they put a shunt in. Same thing. You can't take a shower. You have to wrap it. I wrapped it in saran wrap. I was working at Ridgecrest Baptist Conference with Susan. I wrapped it. Very uncomfortable. I actually got an infection, and they had to take it out. Was very sick. I was on another round of. So here they are putting antibiotics and basically a form of chemo in, and they have to redo it because I get an infection. And I remember when I really understood what you were doing, why hadn't anyone else done that?
Well, that was still, my question, and I asked several surgeons when I was looking, the medical advisory, I said, I need your attention, this is what I'm looking to do. And they were like, no one's created it. But the professor from MIT, when we were in Portugal, he said, why did Lisa Kreitz create this and Big Pharma didn't, big pharmaceutical, big medical? And he said, because innovation doesn't always come from industry. Industry's about the bottom line and the big numbers. Lisa Kreitz was about helping patients. And I was like, oh, that makes me feel, it was, because, but I also want to say something, and of course we know each other. And we're both very spiritual individuals. There was many times in that process of trying to create this product and bring it to market, I would lay in bed, and I was so sick. I was so sick I could barely function. And I would look up and I was like, I can't do this anymore. And there would be this voice that would say, you keep doing what you're doing. And I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. So for me, and I don't want to get into religion or anything, but to me, the shower shirt was a God product.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
You just keep doing what you're doing. I don't even know what I'm doing. And I just kept doing it, and I kept doing it, and every day, and I was sick, and I had to go to bed, but I would work a little bit more. And then all of a sudden, everything just started falling into place. And something else that in business, I don't know if it's just women, men, it doesn't matter. Business supporting business. Do you know every person I ever reached out to when I was trying to bring the shower shirt on the market? Every person helped me. Hi, my name is Lisa. You don't know me, but I have a question.
You're so good with people, Lisa.
Everybody helped me. And to this day, anybody that reaches out to me now, I'm like, give me a couple days, I will call you back. It is so important to pay that forward. I was talking to my patent attorney out of Washington, D.C. Of course, we've had our patent for design and method of use for about 10 years. Very proud of that. I know you've had a lot of patents.
No, I've only had one approved. The others are in patent pending. So I'm going to tell you, and I'm sure you know that it's like, I don't know, it's like you gave birth to a child.
Oh my
right?
goodness.
It's a pretty big deal.
I don't have children, so I feel like sometimes the shower shirt came out of my womb. It's my child, excuse me.
Well, Lisa, you did something that will help people forever.
And I was talking to my patent attorney one time, and I was complaining. I mean, we've been in, Walmart for, 8 years. Of course, we're on Amazon, mastectomy boutiques all over. And I was complaining one day, probably whining like a female does sometimes. He says, Lisa, he's from Texas, but he lives in Washington, D.C., and he talks very slow. I say, speed up, you're so expensive, talk faster. And you have no idea how lucky you are. He said, Lisa, do you have any idea how many people apply for patents every year?
Yeah.
He said, 100% of them are turned down the first time. He said, now the second time.
100%. Like literally, people don't know that you don't get approved.
Right.
At first, you have to fight.
And he said, do you have any idea how lucky you are? He said, you got in Walmart in 6 months.
Oh, yeah.
This. And he says, please quit whining to me. And he says, and sadly, some people spend so much money on patents, then they don't know when to stop. So those days, again, sometimes I think the glass is only half full today. And then I get up and shower shirt orders come in and I go, no, the glass is full today because I'm helping somebody. And I love that. But also I want to say just real quick, philanthropy is so important. As you and I have talked, I'm on 4 different nonprofit boards. Some are the arts driven, some is digital, autism driven, but I'm on a board, I'm an emeritus with Driven by Heart, and it's a national breast cancer support group, and we give shower shirts to women that cannot afford them. And so, this is the bottom line. Any cancer, medical, sadly in this country, it's you have to have health insurance, and if you don't, it can bankrupt you. And there's so many times when women, they can barely get by just in paying, not just women, everyone, get by just in paying medical bills and paying insurance. And, I look at it as like, the last thing a woman needs to worry about is showering after they've had their breast amputated. It stands to reason. If you can take a shower, you are going to feel better physically. If you feel better physically, you are going to feel better psychologically and emotionally. And that's something that's gravely needed once you've been diagnosed with breast cancer and had a bilateral mastectomy or even a single mastectomy. Once you've had your breast amputated, it's psychologically draining. And if you can at least take a shower, you feel much better about yourself. I think going back to the psychology side of it, if you can feel better, you can get in the shower and clean yourself, feel better psychologically, emotionally. That's going to help you feel better physically. And it all works together, and that's part of the healing process. So I think it's so important to pay it forward.
It's very important. Just speaking candidly, again, going back to the days when I had the shunt and every vein had collapsed in my arms, both arms. Susan was taking care of me. I remember I couldn't take a shower for 2 weeks. and I wanted to take a shower, and I started crying, and I had this very high temperature. They were worried again that I'd get an infection from the water, and I just kept crying. I wanted to take a shower. I called my mom, who was in Missouri. I was in North Carolina. Mom, I just want to take a shower. And so I remember Susan like helping me wrap up everything, and I did it anyway, even though they asked me not to. And people think, well, who cares if she takes a shower when she's that sick? It matters. I mean, you want to feel better, and in life, it's those little things, although I would say that's a huge thing. Like, honestly, being able to take a shower, being able to be clean when you're that sick, people deserve that right. And I love what you just said. We always forget what other people are going through.
Yeah.
And some people don't have money to buy the shower shirt or root products. You know, one of the reasons we give away so many samples to help people is because not everyone can afford it.
Right.
And Duquesne, my son, said it really well to me one day. He said, you know, Mom, I would give these products to everyone if we could afford it. But some people don't have the luxury. And same thing with the shower shirt. And so for you to be able to give that gift to people is extremely important. And I think that's why sometimes I'm so happy we were raised in the town we were raised in and the way we were raised, because in our upbringing, you know, both families, yours and mine, we were raised to do that.
You know, I often say where we grew up, small town, Southeast Missouri, I laugh sometimes. You have to kind of go away and come back to appreciate it that much more. And the town we grew up, everything revolved around high school sports, church, friends, and family.
It did.
And in the basis of it, it's just so important. And that's why and at any point in time, if you needed anybody in Dexter or Essex, you could call right there.
Anytime.
Need them. And that's, you know, life has evolved and we both live in much larger places, but I think it does give us that basic root stability of just so much empathy and sympathy for our neighbors and our friends.
But that being said, you're an outlier, and you've done things that are remarkable.
Oh, thank you. I likewise, of course, I have so much respect for you. Not only you're my friend, I'm just so proud of everything you've done. And I'm very proud to be on this podcast with you. I feel so cool.
Well, you're running media now.
And
I couldn't think of anyone better to be a representative or an ambassador for a brand, because you and I both know how important our health is.
Absolutely.
And
it's everything.
It's everything. And I think you can't love, you can't give, you can't do philanthropy, you can't pick a topic unless you're healthy.
Absolutely.
And so it's a natural, I think, for both of us to be on this journey. And I always say this, and you know this, I'm like you. I did this small part, but everyone I've met along the way is like, they're like the people that have carried the brand or carried the news. Like with the shower shirt, you had so many people that have helped. In the same way with what I've done, it would go nowhere if people wouldn't have helped me. It wouldn't go anywhere.
Right.
If people wouldn't help me, if they wouldn't have done the heavy lifting when I couldn't, it wouldn't have gone anywhere. And it's amazing because you don't see that behind the scenes thing in life. Like even your patent attorney, and I'm sure you know this, Lisa, that patent attorney had to be good to get you to where you are.
Absolutely.
Because I'm not a patent attorney, you're not either. And what people don't understand is the inventor writes it, but the patent attorney has to know what they're doing in order to get it approved.
Absolutely. That is, but sometimes we do, when we get so busy with life, we forget sometimes the journey as to how we got there and the success. And that's why sometimes it's tough, but anybody that ever reaches out, questions on patents, anything, I'm like, I am happy to help you anything I can do because so many people help me.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, you're a gift and you're a hero. And that's why I want to show it on Under the Red Chandelier and Cure the Causes, because I want people to watch it and see your journey. And hopefully doctors tell patients now about the shower shirt. Do they?
For the most part, yes. You know, it's interesting. Dr. Imran Imami, who is one of my medical advisors, he says often, all doctors, all surgeons look at wound management differently. Yeah. Some take it more serious, some take it less serious. And he said, what patients don't realize, he says that if you end up with a waterborne illness, you can have an infection. 5 to 29% of all breast cancer surgery patients get infections. It could be for any reason. But he says, if you get an infection, he said, it can be devastating. And he said a lot of women don't realize the whole process between the mastectomy, the expanders, and then the implants. And he said, so yes, to answer your question, most doctors do tell, it's either don't shower at all or use the shower shirt.
Yeah.
That type of thing.
Because they sometimes there's a human element. Because, when your job's done, there's a wonderful surgeon, so I'm not talking bad about them, but your job's done. The last thing you're thinking of, I think they all give the warning of, like you said, don't take a shower or do this. But again, it's hard, you're a surgeon, you're doing an operation on someone that has breast cancer or another, like when I had the shunt put in. If you've never gone through it, you don't understand what it's like not to take a shower for a month.
Absolutely.
Or 2 months. Do you know what I mean? And,
absolutely.
And you lose, well, you know this, you lose a little bit of who you are when you can't wash your hair, you can't, take a shower when you're used to it. And it's amazing that you've given that gift back to people.
Thank you.
So thank you.
Thank you so much. We really try to, with October Breast Cancer Awareness Month. It's a wonderful time to share all of the innovations for breast cancer patients. So it's coming up. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Lisa.